First at noon, the Hawaii Supreme Court has made its decision on the $4 billion settlement for the Maui wildfire disaster. Justices unanimously ruled that the settlement cannot be blocked by insurance companies. Daryl Huff joins us now with the latest details. Daryl.
So what happened today, if you remember, the big announcement last August, right about a year after the fire, they announced a global settlement, $4 billion, $2 billion from Hawaiian Electric, more than $800 million each from the state and Kamehameha schools, and another $300 to $400 million from other defendants who had some responsibility. Well, that settlement did not include insurance companies, and they have been fighting in court to be included in the settlement and have filed their own lawsuits against the defendants. They claim that they are paying out about $3 billion and deserve to have some of that back from people who will get money from the settlement for the same things like home rebuilding that the insurance companies paid claims for.
So, Daryl, what did the court rule, and wasn't this really fast? The arguments were just last Thursday.
It was super fast, according to the attorneys I've talked with today. The court agreed with the attorneys for victims that Hawaii law that the only way an insurance company can get back money from a settlement is to file a claim called a lien claim against the individual policyholder. The insurance companies really don't want to have to do that. There are thousands and thousands of insured homeowners and businesses.
Okay, so what happens next now, Daryl?
Okay, so now the whole settlement goes back to Maui County Court, where Circuit Court Judge Peter Cahill will have to set up the process for paying the people who had losses, including things like trauma, pain and suffering, injury, loss of wages, and of course wrongful death, also family displacement, and all kinds of things like that. The judge is expected to have some sort of mini trials with selected families where they can make judgments about how much certain experiences are worth, then set up formulas for payoffs that can be applied to the individual claims. Probably the court will appoint a master or administrator to handle that, and the judge has already been working on this process, so I don't expect it will take more than a few weeks to at least get going, although it could take a couple years for everyone to get paid.
Daryl, could the insurers appeal the decision?
Well, I asked that to victims' attorneys today, and they say probably not, because this ruling was by our highest court, and it was over a state law, so it doesn't have a federal connection that could get it back to the federal courts, the Supreme Court. But I have not heard back from the insurers about what they plan to do.
Got it, Daryl. So this is a really big deal then.
Oh, yeah. This is a very happy day for thousands of victims and their attorneys, of course. We will be hearing from all of them. The governor had called a news conference but backed off on that and will be issuing a statement. It's a big deal for him, too, because he helped make this happen.
All right. Daryl Huff reporting. Thank you so much for filling us in, Daryl.
Sure.
The National Treasury Employees Union has filed a new lawsuit trying to prevent the Trump administration from shutting down the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the agency created to shield customers from predatory banks and lenders. It's the latest target in the president's effort to slash the size of the federal government. Erica Brown has more details from the White House.
Protesters rallied outside the now shuttered USAID headquarters in D.C. on Monday. Now Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency is moving to shut down the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
The richest man in the world shutting down a consumer protection agency that returned billions of dollars to the American people, dollars that they had been cheated out of by some corporations that engaged in fraud.
President Donald Trump says DOJ is rooting out corruption in government agencies. So far in his downsizing campaign, Musk's DOJ employees have sought data from or sent employees into at least 11 federal agencies, with more coming.
I'm going to tell him very soon, like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military.
Trump's push to slash the size of government faces multiple legal challenges, with lawsuits disputing his authority to shut down these agencies and to buy out federal employees. Unions have sued to block Trump's offer to federal employees to resign now and be paid through September. They claim Congress has not authorized funding for the offer. The White House has a midnight Eastern deadline tonight to accept the buyout, saying more than 65,000 workers have already done so. That's more than 3% of the U.S. government workforce. On social media, Vice President J.D. Vance lashed out at rulings against some of Trump's orders, writing, "Judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power." Erica Brown, CBS News, the White House.
Meanwhile, Hawaii's Attorney General Anne Lopez is leading a coalition of 20 other attorneys general who are standing with the nation's federal employees. An amicus brief was filed on Sunday challenging the Trump administration's federal buyout plan, which forces federal workers to choose between accepting a buyout and possibly being terminated.
Hawaii is home to approximately 25,000 federal employees, civilian employees, that's not counting the military, people who work for the judiciary and even the post office. We've seen firsthand what the federal government can do for the state of Hawaii. After the August 2023 Lahaina wildfires, who stepped up and really came here and brought their resources and their personnel? It was the federal government. It was agencies like FEMA and the Coast Guard and other agencies, the Environmental Protection Agency, that really came and supported the state of Hawaii in its moment of need.
Meanwhile, Attorney General Lopez is also part of another group of AGs suing the Trump administration, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the National Institutes of Health in an effort to stop them from cutting funds for medical and public health research. And since President Trump took office more than 2 weeks ago, federal agents have arrested dozens of people across Hawaii, according to law enforcement sources. But as Eddie Dowd reports, a resistance is starting to grow.
For Chor Danola, the Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigration is personal. He says his uncle was recently arrested by ICE agents in Laie.
Both of them shared no criminal background. They're ripping families apart. They're ripping people away that, ultimately just come here for a better life.
On Saturday, Danola joined more than 40 people who came out to the Hawaii state capitol to send the message across the Pacific Ocean.
Just seeing the movements around the nation, and I was like, we need something like that in Hawaii to spread the aloha. Support the criminals, but leave the hardworking people here.
The administration has said its primary focus would be arresting people here illegally with criminal records. But last Thursday, the North Shore community was shocked when ICE agents arrested a longtime farmer in the area who did have a removal order, but a few traffic citations that were dismissed. The White House clarifying its definition of criminal history.
And if you are an individual, a foreign national, who illegally enters the United States of America, you are, by definition, a criminal.
So to be clear, violent criminals do not receive precedence in terms of the deportations taking place.
The president has also said two things can be true at the same time. Absolutely, those should be the priority of ICE, but that doesn't mean that the other illegal criminals who entered our nation's borders are off the table.
Some at Saturday's rally say they know people here who are undocumented and are now afraid to leave their homes.
They won't go out to stores that much, don't really go out. Because they've been taken at Safeways, they've taken at stores, everywhere. They've been picking them up.
It's not safe anymore for us.
Yeah.
It comes as some landlords and legal organizations are urging people to not open the door to ICE agents unless they present a valid warrant. Meanwhile, others in the state are welcoming the deportation efforts.
He ran on immigration. My God, he's doing a fabulous job.
Eddie Dowd, Hawaii.
We're learning more about a mid-air scare that happened on Sunday in the skies above Oahu. 273 people were forced to evacuate Hawaiian Airlines' Flight 22 after smoke began to billow from the plane's left engine. The flight was headed to Seattle at around 2 p.m. Sunday when it returned to Honolulu's Daniel K. Inouye International Airport shortly after takeoff. Those passengers were later loaded onto another plane, which arrived in Washington at around 3 this morning. In a statement, a Hawaiian Airlines spokesperson said, quote, "Safety is our top priority and we apologize to guests impacted by this event and thank our crew for their professionalism." A treacherous East Oahu jumping spot claimed yet another life over the weekend. This video posted on the Instagram page HHH News showed a man jumping off a popular cliff area known as Spitting Caves. That jump soon after claimed his life. According to witnesses on the scene, right after he jumped, the ocean got rough and the cave was seen spitting and foaming. Honolulu EMS says he was treated and transported to the hospital initially in critical condition, but later died from his injuries.
And when he went to jump, like halfway down, he closed his eyes completely and he crossed his arms and he just smacked right on his stomach and his face.
Witnesses say he was submerged for 20 minutes before first responders arrived on scene and found him unconscious. At the moment, we do not know much about the victim, except he was reportedly a visitor from Argentina. We'll bring you any updates on air and online as we get them. On Maui, an investigation is underway after a 49-year-old hiker fell to his death Saturday afternoon. We're told rescue crews responded to a waterfall off Hana Highway near mile marker 6.75. Authorities identified the victim as Carl Newman of Waikapu. And on Oahu, the fire department had to rescue 2 hikers from the Sacred Falls Trail in Punalu'u. It happened Sunday afternoon. We're told the 2 people are a married couple in their 60s who are visiting from California. They suffered multiple injuries and could not continue on their own. They were airlifted to safety and transferred to emergency medical services. Hamas said today it will delay the further release of hostages in the Gaza Strip after accusing Israel of violating a fragile ceasefire that now faces its most serious crisis since it began 3 weeks ago. Yasmin Vuzuhuin reports from Tel Aviv.
The military arm of Hamas, Al-Qassam Brigade, the spokesperson there, saying that they are indefinitely withholding the release of any more hostages because they feel as if Israel is not holding up their end of the bargain when it comes to this ceasefire deal. They're citing 3 separate reasons. One reason is not giving enough humanitarian aid. And what they mean more specifically is tents, caravans, mobile homes as well. You have a lot of Palestinians that are returning to the north of Gaza without homes, the north of Gaza being completely flattened. They're also citing repeated shelling and shooting inside Gaza. There were 2 separate incidents that happened over the weekend. One was the killing of 3 Palestinians near the border, near Gaza City, in which the IDF says these Palestinians approached them and they subsequently opened fire, killing all 3 Palestinians. Another incident was in the south of Gaza, near Khan Yunis, in which a woman was killed. The third reason in which Hamas is stating is the crossing of Palestinians from the south to north of Gaza, that in fact it did not happen in time. The Netzarim corridor was opened up on Sunday, allowing free passage of Palestinians from the south to north to return to their homes after having been evacuated to the south. However, the Hamas spokesperson essentially saying it did not happen in time, hence why they are now withholding the release of any further hostages. I'm Yasmin Vuzuhuin here in Tel Aviv for NBC News.
How's it on this Monday? It's going to be absolutely beautiful today, but with the light winds, we'll have some afternoon clouds and a few afternoon showers into the early evening. Widespread rain not expected, and this is the weather picture we'll see through Wednesday. And as far as the surf, we'll see building waves later today. It's going to be rising. For today, the waves are still very big, and conditions will be good because of the light winds, but huge swells coming in tonight and again on Thursday.
Well, live fire training is scheduled for this week at the Hilo and Kona airports. Today through Wednesday from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., the FAA will complete an annual exercise to recertify fire and rescue personnel. There will be emergency drills involving burning fuel and smoke.
President Trump promises new tariffs on a major import. I'm Jared Hill with how the tax on foreign steel and aluminum could impact how much Americans pay for nearly everything from cars to food.
Also ahead on This Is Now, flu cases are surging across the nation to their highest levels in almost 15 years. What's behind the latest spike in 2 minutes? President Trump is set to announce stiff new tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports into the U.S. The move would apply to all countries, including Canada and Mexico. Jared Hill has more from New York.
President Donald Trump says he intends to impose 25% tariffs on all steel and aluminum imports from across the globe.
Any steel coming into the United States is going to have a 25% tariff. Aluminum too.
The order is expected to apply to all countries, including Mexico and Canada, two of the nation's biggest trading partners. President Trump promised to implement new import taxes in his second term to help U.S. companies boost domestic production.
We're going to see a lot of domestic steel and domestic aluminum companies get a little bit of an advantage. Look no further than essentially the industrials, look no further than real estate.
But economists say the tariffs could eventually result in higher prices for U.S. industries that rely on imported metals for everything from car parts to cans.
Down the line, we are going to see that tariffs will impact consumers as we essentially have to pay the cost of those taxes that those companies or those importers are paying.
Over the weekend, President Trump also promised what he called reciprocal tariffs on imported goods in cases where another company has put tariffs on U.S. exports.
They are charging us 130% and we're charging them nothing. It's not going to stay that way.
And retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods are already kicking in, with China placing a tax of up to 15% on coal, liquefied natural gas, and crude oil, as well as other products from the U.S., in response to the Trump administration's 10% tariff on all Chinese imports. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
To health news, flu cases are surging across the U.S. The latest info from the CDC shows doctor visits for flu illnesses have reached the highest level since the year 2009. CBS News chief medical correspondent Dr. John LaPook stressed that in any given year, up to 41 million people can get the flu and over 50,000 people could die from the virus.
If you have some sorts of symptoms, how do you know if it's the flu versus just common cold?
Well, in general, the cold symptoms are from the neck and above. The sore throat, the cough, the runny nose, and all that stuff. Once it starts going below the necks and you feel aches and pains and fever, you can have nausea, vomiting.
Dr. LaPook says it's still not too late to get the flu shot, and if you do come down with the flu, he advises asking your doctor about the medication Tamiflu as soon as possible. At least 43 states and the District of Columbia are showing very high to high levels of flu activity, and there have been temporary school closures in some areas. Well, let's take a look at your 7-day forecast. Beautiful start to the week, but you can see some showers there as we get into the weekend. Guy Hagi is going to have your full forecast in 2 minutes.
Monday. We've got a nice stretch of really beautiful weather, but the winds will be light, so we could be dealing with some fog and some haze. Now, as far as rainfall, with those light winds, we'll likely see a few of these passing showers for those windward areas in the overnight and early morning hours, but for the most part, the mostly dry conditions will persist. Now, with the light winds, like I said, there could be some fog and some haze in the air, as well as a slightly more humid conditions. And these light winds will also help to develop those afternoon cloud buildups around the mountains and maybe even spawn a few spotty showers, but widespread rain not expected. And for the better part of the day, it's going to be very, very dry. Now, as far as the surf, with those light winds, conditions will be good, but we've got dropping swells for north and west shores. But huge swells are coming in later tonight through tomorrow, and another big swell near warning levels for both of these swells coming in on Thursday. So again, big swells tomorrow and again on Thursday for north and west shores. Not a whole lot happening for south or east shores. So we've got this light wind weather pattern all the way through Wednesday. Then a cold front is due in on Thursday. Between Thursday and Friday, look for more clouds and more showers. Also, the winds will shift from light trades to Kona winds. And then another front is due in maybe between Saturday night and Sunday. So heads up on that. But for the most part, at least for the next couple of days, it's going to be very dry and it's going to be, pretty warm.
The Philadelphia Eagles are taking home the Vince Lombardi Trophy. I'm Danya Backus with why this was the ultimate gift for two of the team's players.
Good news, but I guess that depends what team you were cheering for. The Philadelphia Eagles are flying high today after their decisive victory over the Kansas City Chiefs 40-22 in Super Bowl 59. Danya Backus has a wrap-up from outside the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans.
Eagles quarterback and Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts was all smiles the morning after he led his team to victory.
To be able to bring a championship back to Philadelphia means everything.
The game wasn't even close.
Intercepted, picked up by Cooper DeJean.
The Kansas City Chiefs had hoped to become the first team to win 3 Super Bowls in a row.
Intercepted again.
But the Eagles' defense was too much for Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes, who had 3 turnovers and was sacked 6 times.
Ball is out.
Defense did an awesome job yesterday.
Anytime you lose a Super Bowl, it's the worst feeling in the world. They'll stick with you the rest of your career.
Eagles rookie Cooper DeJean broke the game open with an interception he ran back for a touchdown, making it even sweeter. It was his first career touchdown on his 22nd birthday, a birthday he shares with teammate Saquon Barkley.
Be able to hold that Lombardi trophy and do it on my birthday and Saquon's birthday, it's pretty crazy.
President Donald Trump became the first sitting commander-in-chief to attend the game. And Grammy winner Kendrick Lamar delivered a star-studded halftime show featuring actor Samuel L. Jackson, singer SZA, and tennis champion Serena Williams. In Philadelphia, rowdy Eagles fans lived up to their reputation, scaling a truck and set a fire in the street as they celebrated their team's Super Bowl victory. Danya Backus, CBS News, New Orleans.
Are you having a case of the Mondays or maybe the Super Bowl Mondays? Because if you took today off because of the Super Bowl, you have lots of company. USA Today is reporting that a new Harris poll found that more than 22.5 million people across the U.S. called out today. Researchers also found that only 2% said they plan to call in sick, while another 2% said they plan to ghost their employer completely and just not show up. An estimated 13 million people were responsible and took a pre-approved day off. And of course, post-Super Bowl yesterday, Team Ruff and Team Fluff were back at it again, putting on an adorable show in the annual Puppy Bowl. Of course, this year's rematch on the gridiron carpet included 142 puppies from 80 shelters across 40 states and even 2 countries. Former NFL referee Dan Schnachner was on hand to keep the pups in line, and this year's game was a high-scoring event. Team Fluff beat Team Ruff 68-66 and won the Lombardi Trophy. Of course, the goal of the Puppy Bowl is to raise awareness about pet shelters across the nation and hopefully find these adorable little guys a home, and I'm sure they did. Look at them. All right, we're going to leave you with one last look outside. Thanks for watching. This is Now. More headlines coming up first at 4 right here on KHNL. Aloha.